Welcome to another Predator walkthrough video. My name is Seb Barfield, I'm technical engineer at Predator, and today we're going to look at setting up alerts in Predator. So the global alerts configuration screen is found in backup, events, and global alerts configuration here. And this section of Predator allows you to set thresholds and variables for all the different alerts that are available within the Predator platform. The global alerts configuration, you could say, is similar to a 24/7 health check on your Predator environment. Predator will constantly query and do select statements and scripting into the Spectrum Protect server to pull out key information and to preempt any problems. So that's the key thing of this area, is preempting any issues that may arise. So things like database utilization, database log utilization, containable utilization, all these different alerts are available in this list here. And what, as an admin, we need to do is, once we've had Predator set up and we've had it installed, is come to this screen and look at setting the variables for each alert that is applicable to your system. There may be alerts in here that reference tape libraries, or you might have stuff reference containables when you're not at that version of Spectrum Protect yet. But you can just ignore these and just focus on the key ones that are applicable to your system. So it's a case of looking down and going through each individual alert and looking at whether you want it to be enabled or have a ticket raised for it. So to start off with, the alerts configuration screen is in alphabetical order. So you just work through these and start going down them. So you can see we've got over 100 alerts here that are actively being queried on your system or your backup environment on a 24/7 basis. So this is a case that is constantly going to keep an eye on everything. And then if it does hit one of those thresholds or one of those alerts, it will then raise a ticket or raise an alert, depending on what you have set up in the left-hand side here. So you can see the tick boxes here. If you do have multiple servers on Spectrum Protect, so if you've got, say, a development system like we've got here, our DevWin TSM01, you might have some other servers here. So these are our production servers in our environment. And what you can do is set this up on one server, and then easily you can tick on these three here, and then you can apply the settings across multiple servers. So if you've got the same infrastructure and you've got the same setup on each environment, you can copy these across. So it's not a case of setting up one server. You might have two servers, you might have up to 30, and you might just want to make sure that you're going to set these up individually. So to actually go through this and start to look at these here, what we can do is we'll start looking down some of these. So the key thing here is you've got counting. So do you want an alert if counting is not equal to on, for example? You might think, okay, it's nothing to be of a concern to myself, so I'm just going to leave it enabled, but I won't let it raise tickets. So one thing that I will reference in a bit is showing you where you can also see what things have actively hit their threshold, but you don't have a raised ticket raised for. And then this is where we can have a look at that area, and you might go, okay, actually I'm interested in having that as a raised ticket, because you want to make sure that your environment is sound and it's safe, and that you're not going to have an issue where your backups aren't running and therefore losing a restore window or restore day, for instance, and potentially putting the business at risk. So scrolling down here, some key ones that you see here, ANRs and ANEs, you might want to, or you will want to have raised tickets. So this is something key that will be in another video if you check out the Predator YouTube page. And these ones you will want to keep raised tickets, ticks and enabled. They're very key. ANRs are very much server-side related, and it is anything to do, any error or any code that does come up, we do have an active database with the latest ones in there. Moving on, you've got things like containable utilization. So here is one where we will change the threshold. So actively, I'm not going to go through each one individually, but this is give you an idea of how they would work and how they would interact with your system and how they would interact with Predator. So for instance, containable utilization here, this is something key if you've got a environment that's like 717 plus, maybe 714, and containable utilization you've got enabled, and you want to raise ticket here, ticked as well, because if we want to be at preemptively know when we're hitting that threshold. So if you've got an environment that's 10 terabytes or 10 terabytes stored in your backup environment, you might go, okay, I know I've got 4 terabytes of disk, so I've got a 14 terabyte container. when it hits 12 terabytes, for instance, or hits a certain percentage, this is when I want it to raise a ticket, because you want to be able to go, okay, I want to know about that, because I'd rather than it hitting it and just utilizing it and slowly growing up until it fills it up and you go, okay, I now need disk. You can preemptively say, okay, at 80-90%, for instance, I want to know if my container pool utilization has hit that threshold, and that's where you can preemptively change or add more disk. You might have spare disk left over, you might need to purchase this. So this is about always keeping enough space in your environment. It may be a case that you've got a huge environment and you've got redundant file spaces. So this is a key alert here. Another one is database size and database utilization. Another key one, because you want to make sure you've got enough disk available for your database, especially if it's running on, or it will be running on solid state, and database utilization as well. So you might go, okay, if it hits 80%, database utilization, I then want to know about this, because it might take me a while to source the disk. It's similar to containable utilization. You want to have enough space available there where you can actually fix it before it becomes an issue, because the last thing you want is your database utilization to hit 98-99% over a weekend, for example, and it might hit that threshold and then it causes the Spectrum Tech server to fall over, for example, and that's when it can cause more issues. And it takes a hell of a lot more time to be able to bring that server back up, give it enough space, expand or increase the database disk size, for example. So everything within here is about preempting your problems. So moving on in terms of other stuff in here, so to actually change a threshold and update it, what we can do here on database utilization, for example, is look at, okay, maximum database utilization is 80 at the moment. We might go, okay, we've got a 2 terabyte disk for our database, and that's all assigned, and our database is currently at maybe 800 gig, for example. You might put it up to 90%. You might go, okay, I'm really, really concerned. It could be a small disk where you've got a terabyte database, but you've only got 1.2 terabytes of disk. You might set that to like 95%, for instance, because you might know your growth rates may be 5% month on month potentially, and it's about changing that. So you could change this here to 85% if you wanted to, and you can click update data here. What you could also do is work through these in a linear fashion, go next one, double check each one, and then come down to the bottom here and click update down to the bottom left here. So then you do that, you'd have a threshold updated, and that's basically Predatar will then adhere to that threshold. If there is a ticket already raised for this, you might find that you need to go back and delete that ticket to reset it and make it adhere to this new threshold as such. We're just going to put that back to 80. Another thing that's here as well is, how often do you want this to be checked? So some of these reports will run on a frequent basis. So this says every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it runs at 10 o'clock. So database utilization, for example, we want to change this. So we want to go into here, we want a start time of maybe 1 o'clock in the morning, have it run Saturday, Sunday as well. And we want to get this checked every hour on the day. So what we're going to do is click advanced, repeat task equals yes, and then repeat every 60 minutes up until 12 o'clock the next day. So that's going to run every hour. It's going to query every day, and it's just going to keep checking that database utilization. So some of these reports by default will only run 5 days a week. So you might have to come back into here and set them to run on Saturday, Sunday. That's if you do, a lot of the cases might be only on a 5-day basis, is because you might not have on call or call out features. So, but if you do, you might want to add this in Saturday and Sunday. You might want to have a ticket raised and therefore get an email sent to yourself to say, okay, why, that this issue has occurred or this threshold has been reached. And it's something to be of concern about. This is all about what Predatar and the value Predatar adds into your backup environment and helping you do this. So we're going to click done on this one. So the key thing I would do here is work through these, make a basis for them. And when they start to raise tickets, and you might see that, okay, I could tweak this threshold a bit, that's when you might come back into the screen and go, okay, I know this ticket's been raised within Predatar or this email's been sent, but I know I can change that threshold slightly. So it's something that is going to be constantly evolving. You may need to change your thresholds. You might add more disk and therefore drop a utilization value down or up potentially. So it's one of these that you've just got to keep actively looking at potentially, and until you hit that sweet spot and you're happy with it. One thing to note, I do always check as well, is if you go to backup events and go to server events here, this is very much similar to your global alerts configuration screen, But instead, what we're going to do is we're going to go into Telehouse, for example, and we're going to go to SP-02. So this is where you can see the alerts, and this is where an alert has been hit, but it doesn't have a ticket raised for. So we've got a nice red, or not a nice red one. We have an alert, we have something, the threshold's hit, but we don't have a ticket for it. If it's grey, it has a ticket raised for it, and there is an alert set up for it. So we can just click into this, and we can actually see this is here. So we can see receive data, and we've got the information for that piece that's within here. So you can see the alert help, we can see that information there. So this is where you can come in and see it on a different level. So it's a case of seeing what's activated here. As you can see, everything is pretty much activated. You can see what's been paused, and you can also see what's been taken out. So you could make, if you have accidentally disabled something, or you're thinking, okay, I've seen that massive list, but I don't know what quite has actually been disabled, you can come into here and you can see that there are 8 individual alerts that have been disabled. So you might look at these and go, okay, actually I need to switch on this one. I may need to switch on node session security, not strict, for example. And then you can see what's actually activated here. So it's another way of looking at your system. So that is looking at your global alerts configuration and how to preemptively get tickets and emails on any issues that may occur in your Spectrum Protect environment. And this is something that is really key in terms of getting a lot of value out of Predatar, in terms of having these tickets, having these emails, getting this key information before an issue happens with your backup environment. If you do have any questions, do contact support@predatar.com or contact your account manager. And if you do have any other areas in Predatar that you are of interest, do check out Predatar on our YouTube page, where you'll find a playlist on how-tos in terms of other areas in Predatar and how to look at and how to utilize them effectively. My name has been Seb Barfield. I am a technical engineer at Predatar. Thank you for watching, and do sure to check out our other videos. So thank you.